I'll walk into the space, we energize people, we get them involved in the workshop, and then we're like, say the word vagina, and people are like, you know.
This is the Dr. Tlaleng Cooking Show. Thank you very much for being here.
Welcome to the Dr. Tlaleng Mofokeng Show. My name is Dr. Tlaleng Mofokeng and I am your host. And today, with great anticipation and excitement, I will be hosting 3 young women from the Youth Coalition who will share with us their journey through self-discovery, getting self-confidence, and really taking on a world that is often hostile and telling them that they are not enough. I hope you will find this conversation enlightening, but also empowering, and bringing to you perhaps some new ideas and some new concepts and maybe even some new words that you may find that you want to carry on the conversation with your own family and friends. By intention, we hope to inspire you to also find your true voice and your true north and keep true to what moves you. So, without wasting any time, let's dig in. Behold, it's a revolution. I've had young people, and you know my love for young people, but this time around they said, we want to make sure when Wanyana, you are always on Twitter telling us, today is the day we are around the table with you to ask you directly the questions that we have around love, matters of the heart, of course, and about relationships and just navigating life as a whole. And I'm incredibly happy and excited to have on the table with me Noma and Shari and Samora, who will be having a lovely conversation. And I must say, my career as a medical doctor started at your age. So a lot of the decisions that I made of who I became today was when I was literally your age. So I appreciate so much, right? The storming and the forming and the energies and just like the feelings that you are having of the what now, what lies ahead for me. So very excited to have you here and join you at home watching to be part of this community by liking, subscribing, and sharing, of course, so that you too can be a part of this conversation on this table. Now, before we dig into the actual deeper conversations, I want to invite you to please have some snacks. You can literally eat them. So let's enjoy. Let's have a real meal around the table. And as we go along, and I'm going to ask you, Norma, maybe first to start introducing yourself. Tell me who you are.
My name is Norma. I'm a 4th-year law student at Wits. It's my final year.
Yay.
A lot of my work is around activism and how the legal world shapes and forms the life that we have. I am an activist. I am a queer rights activist, most specifically. And yeah, that's all I do.
And that's a lot.
It is.
It's a lot. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Hi, my name is Shari Maluleke, and I actually just graduated yesterday with my period. I graduated yesterday with my honors in psychology. I'm also the co-founder of an organization called the Menstrual Project, where we educate people about menstruation, dignity, safety, health, period poverty, and basically telling people that normalizing menstruation and that menstruation is normal.
That's brilliant, and congratulations.
Thank you.
And over to you, Shamora.
I'm Samora, born and bred in the Eastern Cape in a small town called Umtata. My pronouns are she and her. I'm also a 3rd-year law student at Wits University. I'm an intersectional feminist as well, and I'm the founder and the director of a foundation called The Forge, which then we are basically seeking to forge intersectionality, social justice, human rights, advocacy, and all of that which you can think of.
You guys are really so focused and so clear at your ages, right? And I think that leads me into, what this conversation and having you around the table is, right? It was the young people in the clinics in the West End where I used to be a doctor in community service, right? Who would actually rather talk to me outside by my car than in the consultation rooms. And I used to think something odd is happening here. Like, why don't young people feel comfortable to just come and talk to me about their sex life, their relationships? How do I, get a driver's license? Like, they were literally asking me career guidance, And I realized it's partly because I was also closer in age to them, and there wasn't that immediate expectation of reprimand like an older medical doctor or a nurse could give them. And so I thought this space would be great because it's a bit reminiscent for me, a bit self-indulgent, if I may declare, to have you on this table, to hear from you. Like, what are the things that you are thinking about life? What's up? Like, what's happening? And let's talk.
Yay.
I guess for myself, I'm always questioning relationships, intimacy, especially because I feel like we live in a very avoidant society, right? And I've been learning a lot, especially in psychology, about attachment styles and all that type of stuff. But for me, I guess my biggest question for young people, there's many questions, but how do we learn about sex and sexuality, especially in a country like South Africa that's so conservative? We saw with the elections how many conservative parties were in the top 10. So how would you guys think that we should teach young people about sex and sexuality despite conservative backlash?
I mean, I have some thoughts, but you go for it.
Okay, yeah. I think most importantly, there should be willingness, right? So I think there is no better process on how to impact knowledge positively to yield positive results without the spirit of willingness. So that if we can only have willingness on all parties, including the government and the society.
Because I often think about what happens in sort of individual families, right?
Yeah.
And the expectation that each family will raise their children correctly. For you, Norma, you were talking about how you were the first person in your family still to get a degree. And I mean, it's now over 30 years of democracy, and we are still counting those firsts.
I think a large part of it is how society contributes to the people that are growing up to become these leaders and these firsts. I came from a government school and then I went to a private school, and I could see the difference. I could see the difference in the values that I learned in a government school and the values that I learned in a private school. We're way more equipped for university than most people that come from government schools, actually. And I think that that's just on the part of the actors, the educators. I don't think that they're doing their job. I feel like if your job is to teach maths, you can't just walk into a room and teach maths and walk out. I'm spending 8 hours of my life with you. I need to learn somewhat of life lessons from you. I think there's that. And then I think also there's just the parties that play into making the journey daunting. There's funding problems where you are stressed. The beginning of the year for any scholar is a very horrible time because you're looking for funding, you're not getting funding, the school won't let you register, you couldn't pass because you were going through mental issues, and they couldn't help you with that either. So I think that a lot of the struggle is self-created. I think it has to be mitigated, and they haven't.
It was interesting that you did give us your pronouns, and I made a mental note on that. But just by saying what your pronouns are, you are declaring something, right? So how has that been for you, especially in these formal settings in corporate, but also in life in general?
Not so easy. I'm not gonna lie, not so easy. One thing about me is that I will always forge through.
Yeah.
And that's why I named the foundation The Forge. Because I understand that it isn't necessarily easy, but we have to go through. For example, if you go to my socials, there'll always be she, her, hers. That's part of the pronouns. My email signature, pronouns she, her. Title, miss. So that even when we meet in a boardroom meeting or in any consultation, should you say he, I'll say it's either you don't take notice of your emails or my emails, or you don't respect me entirely. Right. So I'm that particular person. And yes, I do get a lot of backlash in this one. Like, Samara, do you really have to? Jesus Christ, what is all this? You know, can we just stick to being Samora? And I'm like, but part of Samora is she and her. So there's no sticking into being Samora without that attachment of the pronouns. So it's not been easy, but also I've been affirmed in certain spaces where, like, for example, this table, where people will just take notice of it and then maybe ask me about it because they do want to learn about it. And then not only that, but also to encourage others to spread it so that they can be able to ask, you know, indaba zama pronouns.
What is that about?
What is that all about? Going back home, my mom was like, what? What is pronouns? Because my mom was born in 1953. The only pronouns she knows are the ones we were taught in English. So and then the only frustrating one for her now, and she's trying to learn, is the they, them one. But at least, again, there is that willingness. At first, there was a lot of backlash, but of course, as time went by, she started to adapt.
And it's also respect, you know, for the individual, for the person.
Exactly.
The issue of language is important, I suppose, for you as well. You dealing with menstrual health, hygiene, topics that are seen to be very taboo, but very important, right? How has that been for you, the use of language? So for you, how has that experience been enriching and more connecting rather than, alienating and shaming?
Thank you for that lovely question. So I've been doing this for 5 years now. And the hardest thing when I came into the space was, in terms of language, was realizing how many people, but specifically women, girls, femme-presenting people, are afraid of the word vagina. Terrified. Absolutely terrified. Like, I'll walk into the space, we energize people, we get them involved in the workshop, and then we're like, say the word vagina, and people are like, you know. And a lot of menstruators are so afraid of that word because of everything it holds, you know, the stigma, the shame. And it's crazy because in sexual health classes, in society in general, society loves penises. But it's like when it comes to vaginas, it's insane. Like, people don't talk about it like it's the shadow behind the curtain. Like, you can't talk about it. I think what I love about my work the most is that whenever we do the workshops, the more we encourage them to say the word vagina, or the more we encourage them to say my period is normal, the more you see these young girls or femmes grow confident in themselves, right? Speaking about language, even saying, when I say, how do you guys feel about your periods? The first word I get is, ew, cis, gross.
Exactly.
And I'm like, this is a natural part of yourself, a natural part of your body. But menstruators are but because of what society has said about menstruation, that it's dirty, people tend to shy away from it.
The first mistake is when they teach you about periods in primary and they separate the boys and the girls. I think that makes it a secret. And then when you come out, they're like, oh, what are you guys talking about? Nothing.
And you have to slip
nothing.
for a pad.
Exactly. Like, why can't I just pull it out in class? I think that's the biggest, it's the biggest mistake. Like, that was our biggest mistake. But also how it's commodified. I think the fact that we have free condoms, but we don't have free pads. How is that still a question in 2024?
Sex is a choice. Menstruation
is not.
Yeah.
And both equally require a good public health response, right? There's enough money to give people the things they need for all of their sexual health needs, including menstrual health. And for you, Noma, I was wondering, because you spoke about the differences in government and public education and how you felt a bit more empowered. So what do you think then is the role of education in life, beyond just preparing you for your professional career?
I think it has to prepare you to survive in the society, like how it is that you take up space, how it is that you ensure that whoever you are remains in any space that you enter. I think that we're not prepared, in hindsight, I don't agree with, but in private schools, you're taught etiquette. you learn how to be professional before you even enter the professional sphere.
Yeah.
And in high school, like, you're not in any space to be in a professional, like, environment, like, but they still prepare you. They teach you how to handshake. They teach you eye contact. They teach you public speaking. But then when you go to like government schools, you're allowed to reuse a speech. Your teacher writes your essays for you. They don't teach you how to think. They don't teach you how to be an intellectual as an individual on your own. So I think that the differences are just they sort of set you up for failure, basically.
So what I hear you guys saying, and in trying to wrap up this amazing conversation, is that we have to make the invisible visible.
Yes.
And forge our way forward, right?
Yes.
And also destigmatize, demystify, but also be very intentional about naming, right? And framing the issues that we deal with. So what do you think is the role of education, right? Outside just preparing you for a professional career or university?
It gives you the tools to be your own person, I feel. And I think the concept of education doesn't even necessarily have to be schooling institutions. Life in itself is a learner. You can learn from your communities, you can learn from the people around you, from your culture. So I think education is such an important tool of agency and learning to be your own person, develop your own thoughts about the world, develop your own sense of self. Because human beings were sponges. We love to absorb knowledge. And I think the violence of then privatizing education is just so harmful in society. Everyone has the right to learn and everyone deserves the right to learn because education is a necessary tool for growth.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Samura?
For me, education, most importantly, before it's even the key to success, it's the tool to empower yourself. It's empowerment. And so that's the role that it plays for me. When maybe I'm learning something from someone, again, willingly so, I'm empowering myself to become a better person. I think also education, for me, it's not sitting down, writing down notes and being taught and just being a sponge and receiving, and then that's just it. Education has, as long as you learned something new, even if it's in a taxi rank, in a spaza shop, walking with a friend, or in a WhatsApp text, if you've learned something new, that for me is education. Because now you'll be like, oh, I don't know about that one. And if you are really interested enough, you're gonna go and do your own research, study hard, and then you're like, oh, okay, this is actually an interesting thing that, again, you've empowered yourself. I used to do that even when I was young. Then when I go back to my friends, I'll be like, yeah, so there's this topic. You know,
Yeah, each group has that one.
like I did say, podium. So that's the role for me for education, even now, even today, even here. You know, so education, empowering tool. Then of course, secondary, it could be the key to success, because if you want to become a successful person in any way, not just only in terms of profession, if you want to become a successful person, be successful in terms of people loving you, affirming you, also just being a human, kind person.
Definitely.
You have to empower yourself through education so that you know how to treat people better, and also you become a better version of yourself. That's the role of education.
No, that's incredible. And I'm feeling really inspired by you guys. You know, there's something I always say, that young people are not potential leaders to be harnessed somewhere in the future. You are already figuring out life. You are already leading in your own right. And it's about how do we support and sustain, right, all of this energy, all of this intellect and passion to a point where it can really ripple and grow and grow and grow and have that lasting change that we need. So I wanted to raise my glass to you to say you are amazing.
Thank you.
And I've learned so much from sharing this space with you today, and I want more of it, please. And as it is tradition around this table, we will always take a moment to reflect, to celebrate, and raise a glass, right, to something important. You can pass this on.
Raising my glass to forging intersectionality.
To individuality and acceptance.
To a safer world.
To the three of you as young people who are doing amazing work.
Thank you. Cheers.
Thank you so much, guys. I really enjoyed this, as I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. And thank you for joining us for this conversation. I think often we sit around the table, we sit around the laps, we sit on the floor, we listen. And it's so wonderful to be around a table with a group of women who are already at a young age so focused, so clear about what kind of future they are forging for themselves, the kind of barriers that are in the way, but also how to move forward to overcome some of those. And I am incredibly inspired. I hope you, having watched this episode, are the same. Please subscribe, like, and leave your comments so that we can continue this interaction, and keep watching the Dr. Tlaleng Mofokeng show in Nawana Kwakwa. Behold, it's a revolution.